Welcome to another episode of Comedy Wham Presents with me, your host, Valerie, and sometime co-host, Miss Purrington. ComedyWham.com is your place to go for features about all Austin comedy. We bring you articles and podcasts featuring the best in Austin comedy in all its shapes and formats. The podcast project began in early 2016. We love interviewing funny people and sharing their stories. I like to delve into a comic's background and motivations, and will sometimes take a detour along the way. Consider the interview a way for you to get to know the folks that make the Austin comedy scene one of the best in the country. In the words of his friend Danny Palumbo, today's guest is a scary monster who has lived in Austin, Texas too long. His comedy is half shouting lies and half sweating. Our guest... I can't do it. Our guest is older than you think and has no real plan. This is his fourth time not networking properly at this comedy festival. Strike that, comedy podcast. And now Comedy Wham presents our guest, Mac Blake.
Yay.
Welcome.
Thank you. Too accurate, Danny. Too accurate. How old do you think I am? If you had to guess.
If I had to guess?
Yeah.
35?
I wish. 36. No. Very close.
Well.
But he was right. I'm older than you think. He did it.
So we're not going to play the reverse game. I crossed the line.
Fair enough.
You cannot cross it. Okay. I can't even say those phrases.
What phrases?
The little catchphrases. I get them all wrong. Like I just say, you can't cross the line. I'm going to set it, but you can't cross. I can't say it.
I got it, though. You're great. You're doing great. It's a great podcast. I know other people have criticized it, but not me. I'm a huge fan.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I need all the encouragement I can get. Mac.
Mike.
Mike.
Welcome to Country Wham. Country Comedy Wham.
Damn it.
Wham's the sound of the barn door closing. Get on in the comedy barn. Here comes the show.
Can I just have you read the questions, and I'm just going to sit here and laugh and giggle at you?
Then I'll just go boo a lot.
All right.
So I think about my life.
Let's redirect.
My terrible choices.
Focus. Mac, how are you doing? Do you need some? Yes,
I'm doing.
You are the giant.
I'm doing great. Yeah, for folks that
compared to Matt Beard,
So apparently Matt Beard recorded his podcast right before mine. I can still smell the hat sweat. For folks at home, I was adjusting my microphone because I'm a giant.
Right, as previously mentioned, he is a giant.
Yeah.
Mac.
Yes. One
word to describe your past.
Oof. I listened to the Daniel Webb episode on the way up here, and I was like, oh, I hope I don't get asked that question. He gave a great answer, though. He said, lucky. My past was good, right?
Good?
I don't know. I mean, if you're asking about like my upbringing and stuff, I do feel... Oh, he said lucky, right? I already said that. Oh, boy, focus. I mean, I love my family a whole lot, and I feel supported by them and everything. But in a way, I oddly don't like dwelling on the past. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's embarrassing is another word. Constantly embarrassed, constantly creating new things to be embarrassed by. But I don't know. Past is good. Yeah. Sure, it's good.
Awesome. Yeah, I've had somebody say normal, and I was like, that's amazing. It's unusual in the comedy world.
Yeah, I mean, I hope my past was normal because I had supportive parents, and I grew up encouraged and by a family that values education and this kind of thing. But I guess that's not normal for everybody. So lucky is, well, I'm going to steal Daniel's answer. No, I already said good. Lucky. Good and lucky. That's two. Oh, being bad at this. You want to start this over?
No.
Okay. All right. Fine.
You're on a time crunch. So
I'll
just edit it all out.
Sure. Okay. Good.
We'll just pick the little pieces that are good to post, and we'll go with that. Where did you grow up?
Well, I kind of grew up all over. My dad was in the Air Force.
Okay.
And so I was born in San Antonio, but we moved before he was even a year old. And then we went to where? Macon, Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, Abilene, Texas, Burke, Virginia, which is really close to Washington, D.C., and then back to San Antonio and I was in San Antonio for 2 years of middle school and then all of high school. So I do feel, sort of a formative years being in San Antonio. I still consider that home, even though I've lived in Austin since 1999. So I've lived in Austin the longest by far. Oh, man, coming up on 20. It's funny, I have a joke where it's like, I've lived in Austin for like 10 years. And one day it occurred to me, like, oh, that's not true at all. And then now as we're approaching 20 years, I've just changed it to, I've lived in Austin a while.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Did you watch or listen to comedy as you were growing up?
Yeah, I did. I would watch Sunday Comics or Comic Strip Live, whatever those Fox shows were. Now I don't even remember their names. That's funny. There used to be like Fox shows on at like 10 on a Saturday, and they would just show stand-up. And then when we got cable, I'd watch a lot of Comedy Central and stuff. But, I mean, as a kid, I think it's a combination of switching schools a lot and just my dad. I had funny parents, which is funny because my mom is very outgoing, but my mom doesn't necessarily make me laugh all the time. Or that's not true. My mom makes me laugh. But my mom's like an easy laugh, whereas my dad is very dry. But making my dad laugh was like a real achievement because, it's just a harder laugh. And so I think maybe having to move schools a lot and sort of losing your friends along the way every time, sort of being funny was a way to get in, and also like a little defense mechanism, like Spider-Man. And so I think I was always interested in comedy in that regard, but growing up, I never was like, I want to be a stand-up. That didn't occur to me.
Were you tuned into this notion about your mom being the easy laugh versus your dad, you having to work a little bit harder from a young age, or is that something that in retrospect you've...
In retrospect, I'd say, yeah. I mean, my mom is great, and, she's always very encouraging of any sort of like hobby or interest I had.
Yeah.
Like if I was into the Ninja Turtles as a kid, my mom easily could have been like, those are stupid, and like, threw a liquor bottle at me. But instead she was like, oh, you like that? Well, then, here, like, I'll listen as you blather on about the Turtles forever. This kind of thing.
I just found that an interesting observation because that's a skill set that you need as a comic to know your audience and decide, okay, this person, that's an easy laugh versus that person's harder to laugh. And so I was curious if it was something that you had identified from an early age, how that has served you.
Then now that I'm thinking about it, it's funny because now my mom is a harder laugh.
Oh, no.
Because to get my mom to like actually bust up is tough. Whereas if I feel like now, because I've developed this dad sense of humor, I can make my dad laugh all day long. But now it's like
funny.
getting a genuine belly laugh out of my mom feels pretty good.
Yeah.
So constantly trying to please the parents. Oh boy.
You mentioned that education was important, and you have 2 degrees. Is that?
How do you know that? Is that in my Facebook or something?
I do my research.
Okay, that's true. Well, the first one's useless. It doesn't count.
Well, and I don't know what the degree is in that one, but I know because I was listening to the Mascot Wedding, the final episode of that podcast. You mentioned, I think you were just at the tail end, maybe, of getting your master's. Because that was what, 4? That final episode was 4 years ago?
Or was it? Let me see. Well, if it was 4 years ago, it would have already happened. I got my master's in 2011. And before people start thinking like, oh, this is a very learned and wise man who's about his business now. My undergrad was in communications. My master's is in advertising. Okay. So it's not like I know anything. I'm just a huckster. Well, by the way, you should listen to the I think it was episode 298 of the Mascot Wedding Show. There's if people like really long audio plays with audio erotica, it's an amazing episode.
Oh, I'm listening.
I think
I'm marking
there's
that
a
down.
weird audio. It's we have like an audio adventure at the end. It's almost like an old G.I. Joe episode, but we just did an audio version of it because we thought it was funny. And David, my co-host David Hada, has a sex scene in it, and it's as soon as I made this, I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever done. And then no one cared. So I am constantly trying to push that episode.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, let's go back to, so after making that observation, I just go back. Let's go back to the education. You're getting 1 degree, and then you had space in between before you got to the master's. If I were to categorize you, I would categorize you first as an improv and sketch performer, although you certainly have the credentials as a stand-up. So which for you came first?
It's funny that I get that a lot. Like I think whenever I do the Velveeta Room, Mario DiGiorgio, the booker there, wrote up a little bio for me, and it says like comes from the sketch and improv world, which is funny because I think I started sketch a little earlier than improv and stand-up, but I started it pretty much at the same time.
Okay.
It's just, with stand-up, it's harder to gain traction. like at first you're just an open micer for a while. Nobody's like, when I first did my first open mic, people weren't like, write this down. This is the age of Mac. Like nobody knows that date. But I guess what I started, first thing I did live on stage in college, I did do stand-up a couple times. And it went okay, but for some reason I just was like, I don't know. Didn't
why
pursue it.
Why did you do it?
I think it's the reason why I do a lot of things in life is I saw someone suck at it and I thought I can do better than that. Okay. And I know that sounds negative, but it's honestly, it's true. Like I sometimes you need that because, you watch TV and you see, I don't know, Seinfeld. Why is Seinfeld? Why is his first name that comes up? I'm not a huge Seinfeld. He's fine though. So you see Patton Oswalt or Dave Chappelle or Chris Rock or somebody do some stand-up and you're like, oh, those guys are geniuses. Yeah. Like I'm never going to be able to do that. And then you see, this dude named Barry go up there and be like, who wants to guess what's in a plastic bag? Nothing. Thank you. Good night. And you're like, what? And you're like, that guy's terrible. I can at least not be as bad as that guy.
Yeah, yeah.
So I went to go see, it was a thing they were doing at a student center at UT Austin. It was called Tuesday Night Live, stand-up comedy competition. And I went one night and I watched it, and then there was some terrible people. And then the second time they had the contest, I entered it, and I got second place, which put me into the finals.
Wow.
And I ended up winning the finals, but I didn't really do anything with it. Because here's what my prize for the finals was. I don't think I won any money. They were like, hey, here's for winning this thing, you get guaranteed shows or some onstage appearances at the Bad Dog Comedy Theater, which no longer exists, and then also at the Velveeta Room. And so the Bad Dog went out of business. And I called the Velveeta Room one time, like, hey, I'm this guy that won the contest. And it was, I think, Dana, the previous owner or booker. And he was like, who? And I was like, I won a contest. I said I get stage time. He's like, I'm not putting anyone on my stage I haven't seen before. No.
Oh, wow.
And so thanks, dude. But I mean, honestly, it would have been bad because I was real bad.
Yeah.
But I just did it a couple times, I think, in my sophomore year and then quit. Didn't do it again for a long time. But then I started... Actually, I did the contest, though, which is weird. Like, if you ever go to the contest and you look at the lineup, and when I say the contest, I mean the funniest person on Austin contest.
Yeah.
And if you go and you're like, well, I recognize these names, and then there's a couple names of people, and you're like, I don't know this person, and it turns out like, oh, you're just the funny person in your office that your friends were like, you should do this contest. Mm-hmm. You're the funniest guy at the Exxon Mobil. And that ended up being me. I did that a couple times. I was like, I'm a funny dude. And so I entered it twice. The first time, I think prior to the contest, I'd been up twice. Like I did that Velveeta Room open mic, and I did the Sunday Cap open mic, and then I did the contest. And then the second, and then I did not advance, and then I didn't do stand up again for a year, and I entered the contest again, and then I did that Sunday Cap open mic before the contest the next day, and I lost, surprise, because it was bad, and I stopped for a while. And then I saw a friend enter the contest again. I went to go see that person's set, and I was like, that person's garbage. I can do better than that. And at that point, I started getting into stand-up like with some sort of regularity, and that was 2009. Okay. And 2009 is also when I started improv at Coldtowne. And 2009, I think earlier that year is when I also started doing sketch. So it's 2009 was my year. Because I think I'd quit a job. Which I know quitting a job is crazy. Not getting fired, not job, I just quit. And I was going to go back to grad school in the fall. And so I kind of had this, I was under contract with a job, and I think it expired in like March or something like that. So I had, March until September to do nothing. And so I started doing a bunch of comedy.
Okay. Had you done performance before you did the stand-up?
I mean, growing up, I wasn't like a theater kid or anything like that. I did get my live performance comedy start. Besides those few times I did stand-up, I started doing Master Pancake, which is a movie mocking show in the vein of Mystery Science Theater 3000, but I mean in the vein of a complete ripoff. And that was kind of a weird sort of like how I came to do that. Bottom line, I just knew the main guy, John Erler. And David Hotto was this person I met at work, and we immediately hit it off. I remember the first time I saw him or noticed him at work, he walked up to his boss and he started grappling, like getting him like in a wrestling hold. And then his boss goes, "What are you doing?" And David goes, with a complete like innocent smile on his face, goes, "Can I put you in a half Nelson?" Which is such a weird thing to say to your boss. And his boss is like, "No." And he goes, "Can I sing you some Nelson?" And he goes, "Sure." And then he started singing that Nelson song. Do you remember Nelson? They were like,
All I Know. Isn't it like All I Know?
I'll take your word for it.
There's like a beating on an acoustic guitar.
Yeah, there were two
lots of blonde hair.
Exactly. I think they were somehow related to Ozzy and Harriet or something like that.
Yes.
And they were these two. I don't know if they're twin brothers.
You have just confirmed for me that I am older than you by a good stretch here.
Or maybe just more into Nelson. Let's not.
Well, yeah,
And I was like, I like this dude. I like this dude who references Nelson and tries to put his boss in a
Right.
wrestling lock. And so we started doing Master Pancake around, I think, November of 2007. And we would kind of do it off and on. So I was doing some live comedy. Mm-hmm. And, just having fun. And I was like, oh, let's do more of this. But I don't know any, I don't know how you become a stand-up or become a sketch guy. I only did Master Pancake because the Master Pancake guy asked me to do it. Like I wasn't like knowledgeable about stuff. If I had known that you could take improv classes, I would have done that earlier or something like this. But again, my vision of improv was just like Whose Line Is It Anyway, which doesn't appeal to me. I wasn't familiar with the UCB style of that kind of thing. I mean, I watched their show on Comedy Central, but I don't remember it. That never clicked that they're like, they were in an improv theater? I was like, oh, it's just a funny sketch show.
Yeah.
To answer that question, I feel like I went way off the rails.
Yeah, no. You gave me a lot of information to work with. So from what I'm hearing is that being on a stage, it wasn't necessarily about pleasing a crowd. You were just having fun. And somebody recognized in you with the Master Pancake that you were funny.
Yeah, I mean, I did like I was always doing like little things that were comedy adjacent. Like I had a comic strip in the college newspaper. Actually, that's how I met Ramin Nazer, because we both did comics. Our comic strips overlapped a little bit.
Oh, cool.
And I had a radio show on Co-op, the Mascot Wedding Show, before it turned to a podcast after they booted us off. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Co-op. Go fuck yourself. No, I like
no bitterness at all.
Some bitterness for those adult nerds who booted us. Couldn't even look me in the eye when you kicked me out, you monsters. Although shout out to my homies who are still there. Carlos Shiflett does a great show. Leah Manners, you guys are great. Sorry, Leah Manners. Or is it Leah? Ooh, I don't know.
Oh, no.
No, it's Leah, right? Ooh, please don't listen to this. Please don't listen to this and judge me. Oh, yeah. So I was always doing like comedy, like adjacent stuff, but it was weird. I always kind of just fall into these things and then regret not doing them earlier. But I mean, I was listening to the Danny Webb episode, and you were asking him about improv and this kind of thing. And he said that he was talking about how he just, like, he wasn't good at it or something. I feel like but he also mentioned he's not a snob about this kind of thing. I always felt like if something looks like fun, I wanted to do it. And so I never really thought about, like, why wouldn't a person who does stand-up want to do improv or want to do sketch? Like, it's just all comedy to me. Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't understand, like, it's like a musician who's like, I don't listen to this kind of music, I only listen to mine. Like, it's weird. Like, I feel like if something's funny or fun, why not give it a try?
Yeah. Did you have a particular approach for how you wrote or you crafted a set for stand-up?
Well, I definitely was a writer-heavy person, which is funny because you talk about improv, you might think I just get out there and fuck around, but I think it came from writing a comic strip. Because with a comic strip, panel 3, there needs to be a joke. Mm-hmm. And so I definitely was like a person who would write out his set word for word and then basically memorize that like a script. And then, which, is like the stiffest thing. Nobody likes watching that.
Yeah.
So eventually I got a little looser. And it's funny, it was an Out of Bounds festival, and I was part of it. And I think I don't know how long I've been doing stand-up at this point. Maybe a year, maybe 2. And I think probably 2. And a guy went up in front of me, and he bombed, and he ate it, just killed the crowd. And he's a nice guy, so I won't say his name, but it was Tony Vinn. And he just, it bombed. And
I'm marking the tape now.
No, it's
For
fine.
editing and
No, it's fine. I guarantee you, Tony didn't get off the stage and he was like, killed him. No, Tony's super nice. And I went up there and, the crowd just kind of wasn't into stuff. And so I started my material and I was like, this isn't going well. And so I just started like getting loose and kind of and it was this weird realization where, again, this is something I wish somebody would have told me, but it's like I just started having fun on stage. And then I was like, oh, the audience likes that I'm having fun. Like that was a weird thing that should have occurred to me years ago, but did not.
Yeah.
And then that was a big lightning bolt. But I don't know. I started out, even now that I've gotten a little bit or a lot looser on stage, a joke to me isn't finished until I write it out and then start going over the words and everything and making sure that, because you don't want to repeat words again and again and again, because then it becomes, boring. And then you want to make sure that every sentence, every word is like doing what you want it to. And that's what I admire. And it's definitely something I notice when a comedian doesn't do that. And they're just up there and like, so I went to the store the other day and, it was a store, right? It was just a normal store. And so I went to the store and I'm in the store. And I'm just like, whoa, if I store one more time, I'm just going to strangle you. So that's something that definitely being... having a sort of writer's background helped with. But, the fact that I came from sort of a written kind of comedy and not a performer comedy makes it real tough to watch me on stage because I'm pretty stiff sometimes. I don't really move around a lot.
What?
Here's what I do. You see this hand motion right here? Like I'm being sworn in on a court. That's my one motion. I have this hand up and it just kind of gestures a little bit. Do you feel like I'm a mover on stage?
Yes.
Oh, really? That's good to hear.
Now I have to really go flash back to the times I've seen you perform. Are you really?
You know what though? I haven't watched the tape myself in a while, so maybe I've gotten better at it. I do feel like I pace more.
Yeah.
But I feel like at first I just was like stiff as a board. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what though? Maybe I've gotten better at it. That's good. There you go. Positive.
Oh,
Yay.
Yeah. Now I'm really just mystified by this. You have this notion of this limited, because when you're doing the improv and when you're doing sketch, there's a lot of movement. So it seems like that would be comfortable for you.
But I think compared to other people, maybe part of it, me being just lumbering oaf, is that I'll see other people's physicality. I'm really impressed by it. And I'm not trying to get up there and be like, who's a really super physical comedian. I can't even think about it. But I'm impressed by that.
Yeah. Like
Sean Patton is a guy that I feel like he's one of those, like in baseball, I call him a 5-tool player. Like he can do, I don't follow baseball at all. Excuse me. But like he is a smart writer, and he's also very physical. And when you sort of combine those two things, it's like, man, that's hard to beat.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm up there and I'm just Martin Short. I don't know it.
Maybe your Shaq O'Neal impression is just
that
more powerful than
my Shaquille O'Neal impression is just me slightly turning around. Like I'll talk to one group and be like, "Hey, everybody," and then go into the second group. Man, it's funny. So I started doing this Shaq joke about these dumb commercials he endorses, and ever since I started doing that joke, which it's probably not the case, but I feel like from when I started doing that joke to now, he's endorsed like 9 more things, and I love it because I feel like it's just for me in a weird way. Because he's like doubled down on these general insurance things where he's playing basketball with like a little cartoon general.
Right, yeah.
Hey, general, shoot a basketball. My Shaq impression, by the way, is kind of like my friend David's Shaq impression, which is you just have to it's like you're choking yourself a little bit.
Okay.
It's not just going deep. It's more like, I'm about to, like you're sort of like almost choking. I used to have to say like a reset word to get into it because I'm not a great impressionist. In fact, I can't hold him for that long that I start sounding alike. Like if I start doing an accent, it'll default to my own voice within a minute. And but my reset word for Shaq is Kobe. Like if I start losing the Shaq impression, I can just go Kobe. Cobra, because it's like a weird. He's not necessarily pronouncing. It's just like, I gotta be for Cobra. But Shaq is definitely a little more. Now we're just talking about Shaquille O'Neal. It's like a Shaq podcast all of a sudden.
Right.
Welcome to Shaq.
I know nothing about sports, so this is just the worst.
Well, he's just a giant endorser.
Well,
that's all you can know him from if you need to.
All right, let's redirect.
Sure.
So you admitted that impressions are not, other than Shaq, impressions are not necessarily something that you do a lot.
You know what? I wouldn't say that.
Okay, all right.
But I don't do them well.
Oh, okay.
Like right now, I also do
You do a lot. You just
I have a Buffalo Bill
right.
James Gum or whatever that guy's name is impression, which is kind of like Shaq. At the same time, it's just like, but like everyone does that. But I just do in the service of the. There you go. If I do impressions, I kind of do them in the service of a joke. I'm not like an impressionist, and I don't say that with any sort of what do you call him? Disrespect. I mean, because Mike McRae.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Mike McRae is awesome because like he has that skill set of being a very talented mimic, but he doesn't need it. Like I took my dad to go see Frank Caliendo one time.
Uh-huh.
Do you know who that is? Okay, he ends up on a lot of sports shows because he does impressions like John Madden, like "Oh, John Madden, boom" or something. I don't know. He's just like this goof. He had a TV show on TBS for a while, and like he's kind of funny. And I took my dad to go see him, and it just was like there's no jokes. He was just doing impressions the whole time. I was like, this guy sucks. But McRae, if he did not a single impression in his act, it'd still be great.
Yeah,
So
right.
he's definitely an impressive guy. He's a talent.
He is. Let's get back to you, though, Mac.
Sure.
Forget the impressions. Forget other comics. FPIA 2013.
Yeah, long ago.
You had 4 solid years of continuous comedy performance, and we talked before. I sat down with Matt Bearden earlier, and we spent time talking about the contest, and it's a very interesting experience in the springtime in Austin. Was your experience like, did it make sense for you that you had made this progression and it felt comfortable for you to win that naming right?
Well, I'll say this. So when I actually started being like, I'm going to do stand-up comedy, first year I entered the contest, out in the prelims. Second year, made it to the semis, lost. Third year, made it to the finals, lost. Fourth year, won. So it sort of was like, yeah, it sure fucking made sense to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I always felt like kind of I'm sure everyone has this feeling. I felt like an outsider because when I started doing stand-up on a regular basis, like the cool kids, it's like Ramin and Ruby Collins and Cubis and, Jake Flores and those kind of people. And I just felt like I was, like not part of that group. And so when I won, it was surprising in a way because, I'm not going to lie. I thought Cubis was going to win. The previous year, Ramin Nazer won, and then Chris Cubis got second, and it felt like we were in a fighting tournament movie, and like one of them was Jean-Claude Van Damme, the other was like whoever the bad guy is, and then we were just all these like tertiary characters who were like, well, of course we're not going to win. Our names aren't above the title, and I don't know. I mean, I was surprised to win, but are you asking did I feel like I earned it?
No.
Okay.
No. Just give your own personal progression. Did you feel like, okay, I feel good about the progress I've made over the last 4 years. Did it feel like, yeah, I have been busting my ass for the 4 years? Because we haven't even talked about some of the shows that you've created, and I'm not super solid on timeline, but I assume that by that point you're also running some of the shows.
2013, I don't think you know what? The only show I was doing at that point, I had just wrapped up a show called The Hustle Show, which continued on without me, but I just finished my involvement in it. And it was like a monthly sketch and sketch showcase with some stand-up mixed in. That's another thing is that I always like to combine stuff in shows. Just because I was like, man, there's some funny people in sketch and some funny people in stand-up. These people should know each other. And I just started Jazz Cigarette, a show, just strictly stand-up showcase for the most part, that I was doing with Joe Hafke. Excuse me. And I think we did one show, and then I won the contest. So, I mean, it was weird. I I don't know. I mean, I definitely enjoyed winning, and
I guess I actually want to take the focus less on the winning,
Sure.
and more on the did you see yourself making the progression in just how you got comfortable on stage? Because you said that, you know, when you realized, oh, you know, if I just have fun on stage, the audience responds to it, and that's great. So that's, you know, a moment that you learned, and you incorporated that in your performance. So after 4 years of performing, did you feel like, you know, I've been learning and improving over that course of time, and okay, I keep learning and improving. And since then, you know, what have you been progressing with? And I feel like there's no way that I'm articulating this in a way that makes you feel like, oh, I need to defend myself.
Oh no, I think I got it. Yeah, I mean, I definitely was progressing and getting better each year, and each year was a learning experience. And then, you know, I still feel like I'm progressing with certain things. I feel like, I mean, on a strictly performance level, one thing I want to get towards is I want to be absolutely bomb-proof with any audience is what I'd like to do, because there are people that can do that. And, you know, I think part of that is reading an audience, which I've gotten better at. I've gotten forced to be better at also just being like, you know, knowing when to abandon material and when to go into the crowd and do stuff, and just trying to figure out what a crowd needs to get it back. And some of that comes from hosting. Some of it, you know, improv helps a little because I'm comfortable with nothing on stage. You know, I don't need to do material to, you know, well, I'll start sweating regardless, but I won't feel like I'm dying. But yeah, I mean, I do feel like I'm still progressing. I mean, it's hard because, you know, I have over 2 hours of material at this point. And which I know is older comedians are like, yeah, who cares? I got like 9. But I mean, you know, I'm not counting my albums. Like, so not counting the stuff that's like burned. I have, you know, and I could just settle back into that and just do that in perpetuity, but I don't want to, you know, because then, man, doing old jokes is the quickest way to get sick of yourself. So you're always trying to be better and progress and work on stuff. And I think, I mean, I don't know, if you're asking me what I'm working on progressing towards now, I mean, I don't know, I guess just better jokes, better stuff. Like every time I see someone go out and do really well, you know, there's parts of people's sets where you're like, I want to be that good at that and that kind of thing. So, I mean, it is, I feel like currently right now, I'm happy about it because I have a couple jokes I'm working on, and working on new jokes is what feels good. You know, when I don't have new jokes I like and I'm just doing old material again, you start feeling like a, you know, dumb hack pretty quick.
You mentioned earlier that you don't think a joke is done until you've written it out. Does that mean you don't perform it on stage?
Oh, no, I perform it on stage. That's not, oh, please. Well, yeah, because like I have a joke right now that I've been doing for a while, and it's ripe. Like it's it's a joke. It's interesting because I don't usually do this kind of thing, but it kind of goes 5 different places, and I can tell like, all right, you've done this as much as you can do it, just kind of riffing. It's time to write it out and see how to fix it. Like how to get this joke from good to great. And I feel like for me that comes, you know, by myself. Like I need to spend some time analyzing the words because I don't know, maybe it's the way I learn or something like that. Seeing it on paper kind of helps me, or, you know, a computer screen. I'm not printing it out. Come on, it's 2017. So yeah, I feel like seeing it written out is definitely helpful for me in my process.
That's mine. I'm going to pause.
Sure. Whoa, that was racist. Sorry, we just dumped something.
Dang it.
You should edit that out.
I should.
That was amazing. I can't believe you said that. Very shocking.
It's not the first time.
Is this for me?
What? Yes, that's
oh,
for
wow.
you.
Guys, for folks at home, I was presented with a water. I just want to say it's a classy podcast. If you're wondering what kind of podcast this is, A+ top shelf.
Yeah, if you want a free bottle of water, then please let me know. I will interview you.
Yep.
That's all it.
The house is full of crosses that are turned upside down in a weird way. That's sort of very prominent. It's kind of aggressive, I'll admit, but it's okay.
The other thing that I'm fascinated by hearing you say is being bomb-proof, because there is never a show that I have seen you do where I am, excuse my language, shitting myself from laughing so hard. It's really hard for me to imagine you getting a cold response from a room.
You know what's funny is, I did some shows in Minneapolis this year, and first two were amazing. I was like, oh, these are great shows. I'm an amazing comedian. Obviously, this was the right choice. And then the third show was just boof, a disaster. And it's just when it's not going well, I was like, well, fuck it. And so I started just messing around and being like, boy, you guys do not like this. It's like, what would you rather see me do? Do you want me to see me play with this pipe for a while? And there was like a pipe that had like some condensation on it. And I started messing with that, and that got him back. And it was a weird way of like, I'm not going to, I don't have blinders on. If things aren't going well, I'll try to find what's funny and stuff. And if they don't like me, if you straight up don't like me, let's talk about that, because then maybe we can all not like me together. And maybe if I start not liking me, then that'll bring you on board. But it's funny because on the way out here, I passed a place of possibly my greatest bomb ever. There's some sort of like semi kind of wooded resort hotel off of a turn, and I got paid. Somebody saw me at Cap City, and they're like, "Oh, I'm giving we're throwing like a little conference get together for legal assistants." So people who work in a law office and handle sort of administrative stuff. Oh, excuse me, edit that up, please. And so this person had seen me, whoever booked me, and they're like, this guy will be a good fit. And they're paying me $500, so of course I'll do it. And I went out there, and before they brought me up, this person was like giving a little speech and like, oh, Greg, I wish Greg was alive to be here. Because Greg would always, he'd dirty jokes, and then Greg, and just, started breaking down like, Mr. Greg, and then like, all right, great, and now here's the comedian Meg Blake. And I went up there, and we were in this like wooded area, not wooded area, what's the word? It's like the center of the hotel. There's some trees and stuff, but we're surrounded by hotel rooms, but we're outdoors.
Okay.
Arboretum? Yeah, that's too fancy. Courtyard, there it is. Boom, we did it.
Okay.
So I'm in this courtyard, and I started doing these jokes, and these are older legal assistants, and they do not like them. And I don't know what I was thinking when I chose the set, but I knew very early on, I was like, this is not the set for these guys. And so then I started messing around, and at some point I was like, well, let's see if we can get someone to come out of their room. And so I just grabbed the microphone, and I was like, attention, I don't remember we'll call it the Courtyard Marriott, which it wasn't. And I was like, attention, Courtyard Marriott guests, there's a bear on the loose, please come out of your rooms. Nobody came out. I was like, I started offering a cash prize. And at some point, a hotel employee came and turned me down.
Oh, no.
And it was just terrible. It was an awful set. And it was like, I was getting paid to do 30 minutes, and I did it. I got out of there. And I remember like leaving. It's like, that's my time. Thank you. Good night. Walking off. The lady had the check. Didn't even break stride. Grabbed the check out of there. And I think I got into a fight with my girlfriend, who's now my wife, on the way out of there too. So it was just a great evening. Just amazing.
Oh, man.
But
okay.
yeah.
So it can happen.
Yeah. It does happen.
Kind of speaks to like your experience in Minneapolis. It speaks to why a lot of people will go to LA or New York or they'll tour because you get challenged in a way that you don't get challenged by staying here in Austin to do comedy.
Yeah, I did some shows in New York last year, and man, I bombed on this one show, and it was a real confusing bomb. And it's funny because I bumped in, it was in Minneapolis, and this guy was like, "Here, were you at the show in New York?" I was like, "Yes, you too?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, I bombed that show. And he's like, "Yeah, me too." And it was a weird thing because the host went up, was very funny, and she did great. And I was like, "Oh, this is a great room, this crowd, love stuff." And then I just went up there and I was like, "Nope." And so that was a weird, like, I don't know what I learned from this other than I'm just not funny or garbage or something. But yeah, it is definitely, it's nice to do other places and get out of Austin and do stuff and kind of, but then also at some point you have to believe in yourself enough to be like, I mean, it's not like I change jokes or kind of drop stuff, like, oh, this crowd's not going to like this, I'm going to try and be someone I'm not. But at the same time, you want to, I try to put forth who I am, but also sort of, make it in a way where I'll try to bring people along with it instead of just, sometimes you can just be like, in Austin, you can just get up there and be like, I don't know, right off the bat, you don't need to like ease people into things. Because if you're at some, like it was a 10 p.m. show on a Monday, I feel like the crowd gets it in Austin.
Right.
But if you're,
right.
If you're playing some sort of corporate thing, or I don't know, if you're in Raleigh, North Carolina, on a Saturday, maybe you don't get up there and be like, so I was watching G.I. Joe the other day. Like, who, what? I don't know. I like how I think that's a cool reference, G.I. Joe. That was garbage. The last thing I said, just delete it. Man, it's funny. Raleigh, I opened for this comedian. He's funny, but he's a magician, Justin Willman. Super nice guy. But I've never had a crowd be more like not into, just be like, this is great, but magic. Stop it with the joke. Like, ha ha ha, magic. Like, it was, I could feel that they just were like, ooh, you're not bad, but get the fuck off the stage because we want to see some magic. He's a really impressive magician. And he's a great entertainer. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, I wish I could be like just dumb magician. But every time he came off the stage, it's like, you're the devil, the things you can do.
At what point did you start thinking about recording your first album?
Let me see. When did that thing come out? 2015. So beginning of 2014, I was thinking to myself, man, I got a lot of material that I'm sick of doing, but I still kind of like it. I just don't want to say it anymore. Yeah. And I was like, hey, an album. I'll record an album. Simple. People were asking me, like, when are you going to record an album? I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, when does... There's not like I'm 35 album time or whatever. And it was funny, about that time I was thinking about it is when Brendan K. O'Grady and Duncan Carson were like, hey, we're thinking of starting a record label and we want to put an album and we're thinking about you. And I was like, well, that's funny because I was thinking about me too. And so that worked out. And so that was definitely fun. It was fun recording that album. And it's nice to have something to work towards. Because you don't always have that in Austin, because it's not like a big industry town. Yeah. Especially if you're not leaving like I am. As Danny said, I've been here too long. So, it's nice to have like some creative goals.
Yeah, yeah. I listened to Bird Drugs on loop for about a week. It was really good, and I thought, again, maybe I have just a problem with misperceptions. Mm-hmm. I thought you were a clean comic. People are kind of surprised when I say I think Chris Cubis is a clean comic because he's got he uses profanity, but he's actually a relatively clean comic. And so I have a 10-year-old. Yeah. And I've actually taken him to a Chris Cubis show and I was okay with it. And I started playing your album for him. I'm like, isn't he funny? I'm like, yeah. He really likes it. So you've got the 10-year-old demographic down.
Tight.
But we were stopped somewhere, and I paused it, and we didn't go back and replay more for him. And then I picked up from where I was. I'm like, ooh, that was a really good stopping point because that was.
Do you remember what joke was?
It's fairly early on.
Okay. It was my first joke on that album is dirty, which is I don't think of myself as a dirty comic, but then when I write out a clean set, I'm like, ooh, my options are limited here. It's weird because I do. It's kind of a thing where it's like, well, I definitely want to have more clean material, but I also don't want to. I just want to go where the material takes me. Yeah. And it is interesting to think about that kind of stuff because I don't feel like people think of me as dirty, but I listened to that album and I was like, there's a lot of dirty stuff on here. Chip Pope told me one time, he's like, I figured out why I like you. And I'm like, oh, please go ahead, Chip. This is a great intro. And he goes, you remind me of an intermittently dirty Bob Newhart, which I don't know if that's... Oh, my gosh. But I am intermittently dirty. But yeah, I feel like I don't know. I don't feel like a dirty comic, but I guess I'm not the cleanest comic in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was like, oh, okay. It's, breaking perception. So it was good for me to realize it because I really did just think, oh, he's a clean comic, but...
Yeah, because I feel like most of my jokes are about dumb stuff or me. It's not about like, hey, fellas, you ever go home with a lady? You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, some of the catchphrases, I'm like, oh my God, it's so funny. And just that is something that you seem to really enjoy putting out in the universe is these really random phrases words that you put together in odd pairings that are just hilarious. And I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Well, I think that might be my Patton Oswalt influence showing because he definitely is a master at sort of combining words into just funny phrases. Like when he's talking about the KFC famous bull. He calls it like a sadness bull or something like that. Like I have a joke about Exterminator, and I was thinking about his lifeless black. How do I describe it? His like lifeless doll's eyes, these lifeless black shark marbles, like that kind of wordplay is fun.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something I like doing.
Yeah,
because I feel like it's. I mean, that's just a good way to punch up a joke because it's like you're describing something. Why not have that description be funny? Like, why don't miss an opportunity to, to make something better. And I feel like that's a easy avenue.
Yeah.
Or not an easy avenue, but a choice avenue. Oof, I should have stuck with easy.
let's see. We are going to ultimately lead up to talking about your second album, but there's just not going to be much left in this podcast, Mac, after I edit out all of the racism and all the
Yeah, you went on quite a rant. But you know what? Here's the thing. I agreed with every word. Get them out, right?
Oh, man. No, it's not true.
No, okay, fine. Polish people can stay.
You've created a ton of memorable shows. Waterbed is your ongoing show.
I've created too many shows.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
I've got Movie Ride is an ongoing show, which, damn it, for the 7 p.m. start time on a Friday night. You know where I live now. I can't get out there.
Yeah. No,
7 p.m.
we talk about it all the time at 7 p.m. start time. It's a cursing. Cursing? Mm-hmm. It's a blessing and a curse. Or cursing and a bless. Just because like it wasn't a time slot at Coldtowne, and I did not create a Movie Riot at all. I just was a person who jumped on after they had established the show in a fan following and everything. So if that show's success belongs to other people. But getting people out there at 7 is tough.
Yeah.
And so, but also Coldtowne lets us do whatever we want with it, which is nice.
Yeah. Six Shooter is a newer show.
Oh man, Six Shooter. So Aaron Brooks and I were on this road trip with Danny Palumbo, and you're on a road for a while. It's kind of like a sleepover. And so we started singing these kind of country western style songs that were just filthy. Gosh. Yeah, just about these like terrible stories. And like he would do a verse and keep the story going. I would do it. And Danny just was like, "This is the worst." But it was fun. And so we started doing it on stage, and I was like, "Man, this is some of the most fun I'm having on stage." And the Alamo Drafthouse opened up a new theater in the Mueller area, and they had a bar. It's a really cool bar called Barrel of Fun. And they were like, "Well, we're thinking about some comedy," and I know someone involved with the Drafthouse, a very good beermeister named John Gross, who was like, "Hey, you want to do a comedy show?" And I presented some options. One of them was Six Shooter, and he was like, "That one." But the name of the duo is called Nuck Deep, which is already, I don't know, that's weird. Because Aaron Brooks and I play as like country western characters, and we host a show in character, and it's a lot of fun. Uh-huh. I watched a clip of the old show that John Mulaney and Nick Kroll used to do. Oh Hello,
okay.
Yeah, which was on Broadway. But before that, it was just a show at this New York performance space or / bar, and I sort of watched how they would. It's a small clip, but it's like they hosted and then they interview the people in character, and I was like, this seems like fun.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think it just goes back to that principle of like, if this is fun, I want to do it. And so that's just a total like follow the fun kind of thing. And I'm very fortunate that the Alamo Mueller was like, yeah, you guys can do this dumb show.
The Banter Show, that's an ongoing show too, right? Yeah, you really do. What, do you have this much free time?
I have, 3 of those shows are monthly. And then Movie Riot is every week, but then I kind of have an understanding with Movie Riot, whereas someone's paying me to be elsewhere, I can miss it. And then I have a bunch of sort of like little random projects I do here and there. I'm just trying to be Austin's Joe Firestone, which if anyone gets that reference, you're a comedy nerd. But the Banter Show I did in New York City, and my wife came to go see it, and she was like, you should try doing the show in Austin. And I was like, what? Because it was a fun format. And I feel like what happens is people see a kind of a style of a show, and they go, we'll just rip that off. And then I was like, hey, how about for once, instead of just ripping off a show, not that I do that. I don't know. Maybe do I? Nah, I'm right. And we actually talked to the people. And so the hosts of the New York show, Allison Seidman and Scotland Green, were like, hey, I had a lot of fun on your show. Would you mind if I did an Austin version? And they were like, sure. And so him and my wife co-hosted with me, and it's just a really easy breezy show. It requires no prep. I do have to write out the prompts, which is tough, and something I'm trying to get better at. But yeah, it's a fun show.
Are there other shows that I miss?
Yeah,
other ongoing shows.
Well, things that kind of pop up every now and then. There's one that I think we've already done once this year. We might do it 2-3 more times, called King of Cups. It's a comedy drinking game show where we play the college drinking game, King's Cup, and we kind of incorporate some stuff into that. That's coming up at the end of the month, May 29th, and then we might do another one in July. I don't know. And then I have some various yearly shows. One of the big ones is the Year in Review.
Ah, yes.
Which is a really awesome show because it has over 30 comedians doing, quick sort of weekend style update jokes where they recap the year. And any shows like that, like the Comedy Seance is a show like that where you just get a lot of comics together on one bill. And I don't know, they've comedians have kind of embraced it, and it's nice to hear people talk about it in complimentary ways, and it's a fun sort of community building show, and it's gotten some good crowds too, which is always nice.
Yeah, we have not talked about your sketch and video work. It was your stag comedy.
Stag comedy, yep.
Yeah, and I watched a few of the Terry and Gary video clips.
Yeah, we have some unfinished Terry and Gary. That's on my to-do list this year. Will it happen? Probably not, but it'd be nice to wrap it up.
Is that something that you're still actively creating, or is that...
No, not really. That just came with something that Ryan County wrote.
Well, yeah, I mean new video projects.
Oh,
I guess.
I have a couple this year. We'll see if we get to them or not. Okay. I think I have 2 more stag comedy sketches, and I think once we do that, I can officially retire it. Because we don't do live shows anymore, but we do have a couple sort of video projects. I'm working on a sketch project right now that's audio only, and maybe we'll talk more about that when it's done. Yeah. I don't want to talk too much about it now, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, we finally got you committed here because I talked to Brendan and Duncan. I said, Mac said he would let me interview him last year, and he's got a new album coming out.
Yeah.
So let's just pretend that Comedy Wham is this official press.
Oh, it is.
And
I took 2 buses to get out here.
Oh,
no,
man.
that's good. I drove.
They do not have bus service out here.
There you go.
It's exclusively driving Miss Daisy territory out
and
here.
if you're thinking that we're on the boondocks, no, it's just Austin. Transportation's not that great.
Right, exactly. You recorded a EP in the recording was in December. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. At Coldtowne, and the album coincidentally is called Live at Coldtowne.
Yes.
So tell us how this album is different from Bird Drugs.
Well, I was driving out to New Orleans by myself in a car, and it's a lot of time to think about stuff. And I was kind of feeling a little lack of momentum in terms of comedy. And I was like, what if I just put out an EP? Just drop some new, or not drop some new material to me, but just put out some stuff. Because I also had some jokes about just getting married that... I feel like had a little time limit on them. I don't want to be like, guys, I got married this year. Guys, I got married last year. Guys, 5 years ago, I just got married. I don't.
Yeah.
And then also, I have this joke about Metallica that I really like doing, but it doesn't feel like an album joke because it just kind of feels like, man, Mac's really zinging it to this 25-year-old song. And so I was like, yeah, I'll put out an EP. And Coldtowne is a special place for me. And it's like, what if I just do it at this pre-existing show called Live at Coldtowne? And, I didn't want to it's not like an official album. It's not like it does. Yeah. It's kind of an EP. It's just like a little bonus thing. And so I didn't want to necessarily push it as hard as I pushed Bird Drugs when it came out. But Karina Magyar, Sam Harder were cool with me recording on the show, and Brendan and Duncan. I was like, I'm thinking about doing this thing. And they're like, yeah, we'll help you. And of course, they're also like, if you put it out by yourself and not us, people will think you hate us. Yeah. And I was like, no, I don't. Let's do it. And they're very supportive about stuff. And so it was kind of meant to just be like a, I don't know, something fun and light. Not like Bird Drugs. My first album was heavy.
Yeah.
It's not like my one man show about, my dad killing me. That didn't even make sense. But yeah, anyway, it was fun. And again, it gave me something to work toward because it was like, oh, well, let me polish these jokes and get these ready to go.
I'm intrigued by this notion that a particular joke wasn't an album joke. I don't understand what that means.
Well, it just felt like sort of the idea of me breaking down a Metallica song. I don't know why it just didn't feel like that great of a thing. It's imagine, I don't know, like if somebody is like breaking down Gummy Bears, the old TV show, which is weird because James Adomian does, and it's amazing. So it's a bad example. But if I'm like it's like just such an idiosyncratic joke. And it's like, right, guys, this song's dumb, right? And people are like, why do you give such a shit about this song? Who cares? It's, it's been around forever. You've had forever to make fun of it. It just felt like, but at the same time, I really like doing the joke because it's a lot of fun. Because I get to talk like a weird wizard for a while. Because Metallica, I don't want to ruin the joke, but I get to talk like this. And so it's fun, but I just was like, I don't know. It just seemed like, just throw it on this thing. See if people like it. If not, I don't know. Who cares?
Yeah, that's really, did anybody else like challenge you on that and say, no, that could have been, I'm trying to get at, so this is a self-imposed decision.
Yeah.
As opposed to you getting specific feedback about, this joke or that joke works in an album setting.
No, not with that joke. In fact, I haven't really talked about it in that light too much. Danny Palumbo told me that my Shaq joke was not one that should ever go on an album, which it is a lot of fun to do. Which is, that's fine. Yeah. Screw that guy.
Save that for live audiences.
Oh, I will. There is a joke that I'll never put on an album because it makes fun of the way my dad plays basketball. And my dad, I love basketball, and that's because of my dad getting me into it. And to have that joke come out where I make fun of the way he plays basketball is just a super, like an Oedipus level betrayal. Yeah. Well, that's weird. I'm not having sex with my mom. But so maybe another better example. There's got to be some other play or Greek or Roman myth where someone kills their dad. But yeah, so that'll never be on an album. So if you want to see me make fun of the way my dad plays basketball, you got to see that live.
See that live. Okay. A lot of comics, by the time we get to the end of our conversation, we are talking about moving out of Austin, because Austin is, it's where babies are made, and then you go off to LA and New York.
Yeah.
And is that something that you've had to grapple with?
It's definitely something I've thought about, but I think I'm in Austin. I think I might actually literally make a baby here. And so that, I have a nice life here.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be too negative. I've had some chances or some things that seemed like opportunities that ended up not being. And I'm 36, going to be 37 at the beginning of fall. And I don't want to go out there and wait tables.
Yeah.
So, if I have an opportunity out there, I'll do something, but I can't just move and start over. And I have learned that even though it seems like maybe I've done a few things here in Austin, I haven't. Like, you go out to LA, it doesn't mean anything. It's hard. I went out and I thought I had some contacts, not as many as I thought, because it was hard to get on some shows. And so, I don't know. But I hope people don't think that I'm just like talking, what's the word?
Smack?
No, I'm like trying to convince myself or whatever, because I only 90% am. But no, I do feel like at this point, I'm just trying to focus on things that make me happy.
Yeah.
And, doing comedy makes me happy in trying to get better at it and in making things and doing this kind of stuff. And it does mean I have to work harder to make those own opportunities in Austin. Like, these short films that I made, or stag comedy sketches, I had to pay for those. Like nobody, which sometimes they get expensive. It would be nice if somebody else would pay for them. Yeah, have I tried to get other people to pay for them? I sure have. But I don't know. But you know what though, we'll see. Right now, I'm honestly super happy in Austin. I have a lot of little projects that I haven't even gotten to yet that I'm looking forward to if I ever get off my ass and do them. So I'm keeping busy here, and I'm creatively. All my itches are being scratched. Would it be nice if I didn't have to work so GD hard to get these things? Yes. Does it feel great when Austin comedy institutions ignore me? Does not feel good. But, I'm trucking along. Yeah. And it feels like home. It's easy living. That's the other thing. Yeah. I was in New York earlier this year. And this New York person's like, oh, where are you from? And I'm like, Austin. They're like, oh, I hear that's nice. Which is, it's like, look, I'm not saying New York is like the funnest place on the planet. Like, I'm not trying to compare to that. But, man, it is not easy to live there.
Right.
Here it is so easy.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Just convenient. I definitely like driving a car everywhere. Mm-hmm. I don't have to, like, take 5 trains.
H-E-B's great.
Yeah, I got a supermarket that's disgustingly huge. Sure, it's probably a poor example of American excess, but at the same time, it's easy living, man. I love it.
Yeah. We'll close out with 2 questions.
Shoot.
I want to know if you've had that moment where it just struck you that comedy is the thing that brings you the most happiness.
Well, I don't know if it is. Comedy is something I feel like I'm good at, and there's times when I feel like comedy is the thing that it's not necessarily brings me the most happiness. It's the thing that is the most fun. And this is going to sound, I don't know. I have a wife and a dog that I like, and I think that's what is more important to me.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing, and my family. But comedy is definitely the most fun, and I think part of those realizations came because stand-up is a lot of it. It's just by yourself a lot of the time. But when I used to do sketch, and our sketch group would travel, being backstage and seeing your friends who are part of it is that kind of like a sports team feel, like where you're like, that's my teammate out there and they're killing, and it's just so funny, and I'm dying laughing. Those are times when it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cool.
Maybe that's my answer.
Okay.
Probably is because I stopped talking.
And your final question, Mac, 1 word to describe your future.
Ooh, bleak. No, yeah, this town's done. That's the other thing. This thing's in the toilet. Austin, man, boo, flush it. We're done. When I moved here in 1999, we had all these like lovable goofballs, like Mal Jones is just some weird guy on the radio who thinks money's evil, or money is sentient or something like that. And then now he's like getting people murdered. Yeah. It's just like, oh, this town. Or Matthew McConaughey is like, well, we should work with Trump. Like, oh, should we? Lance Armstrong, a liar and a bully.
Traffic. Yeah,
traffic is getting worse. Time to leave. What's my future? In 1 word. Let me think about it. Let me give an actual answer.
Okay.
I'm enthusiastic about it. I'm honestly I tend to be an optimist about things. And part of that is possibly just my escapist tendencies. Like, oh yeah, times are terrible. People are dying every day. Even the best president we've ever had bombed people using drones. But at the same time, look how many superhero movies are in theaters. Oh my God, did you see Lego Batman? So good. So like, I don't know. I tend to have just things I look forward to, and I get excited about things a lot. So I'm excited. And then, there's little ways that you think you can improve yourself, which I'm always get excited about. But then you get into that trap of like, you start thinking about something like, well, what if I got in really good shape? And you're like, yeah. And then it's like, well, I already did. I'm like pre-enjoying it without actually doing any work. Be like, well, that'll be awesome. Anyway, let me just shove this pizza in my mouth.
Awesome. Thank you. That is a wrap on Comedy Wham Presents Mac Blake. Tell us where we can find you on social media, all your projects and upcoming shows.
It's funny. I think this podcast convinced me to change my Twitter handle.
What?
Because my Twitter handle is @MacBedazzler.
I love that handle.
Well, here's the thing. I changed it to @MacBlake for 30 minutes, and I go, nah, I'm a bedazzler, man. And now @MacBlake is owned by one of those anonymous goose eggs.
Oh, no.
And I just was like, that would probably make people finding me a lot fucking easier if I was just @MacBlake. Yeah. So maybe, I was looking at my Twitter followers the other day, not that it matters, but I get a super low number, like 1,800. And I was like, man, I've been doing comedy for a long time. Yeah. I mean, maybe I'll start tweeting about Pokemon, be like Brian Gard, 92K. Right. 92K, BG. So yeah, but I'm at MacBedazzler, which is even like, how do you spell that? Like, it's not, I know because I wrote it, but like, it's not easy to spell too. Chris Tellers used to be at DJ Nasty Thoughts, which I thought was really funny, but now he's at Hi Chris Tellers, which is probably smarter.
Yeah.
DJ Nasty Thoughts.
There you go.
MacBlakeComedy.com. I'm not super active on Instagram because I'm a little bit more thoughtful about what I post. Well, I say that, but I also put shitty promotional stuff all the time. But at Make Black is my MakeBlack is on Instagram. But yeah, MacBlakeComedy.com has like dates and videos and stuff like that. It's got some content. Got some hot internet content.
Content is great.
Yeah, content is king, right, everyone? Look at that. Marketing.
SEO. All right.
Just like you give a shout out to SEO at the end. Yo, what up? Comedy Wham 512. SEO, marketing, synergy, branded content,
Figure for
market outreach, activation, getting it out there.
With a master's in advertising, that would get you.
Yeah, I liked it.
We hope you've enjoyed learning about how Mac Blake got to be the comedic genius that you heard today just as much as I have. Be sure to visit ComedyWham.com, give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at ComedyWham, and like our Facebook page. You can listen to past interviews on Stitcher, Google Play, and iTunes. Review us while you're at it, please. This has been Comedy Wham Presents Mac Blake. I'm Valerie, and that's been funny. Thank you, Mac.
Thank you.